Hi everyone, welcome to Rick's 1/35 scale models. My name is Rick. Today I'm going to be looking at a Tamiya kit. This is going to be the Tamiya 1/35 scale T-72M1, and my intention is to build this in an East German version. Now, the kit itself is a really good foundation kit. It goes together great. It's your basic, kit as you would expect with Tamiya, but there are a lot of things that you can add to it and modify to take it from a good kit to a great kit, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. Now, the pictures themselves show quite a few details that aren't actually on the model, and these are all things that I'm going to add in. Now, there's several ways you can go about this. You can either buy some of the aftermarket PE sheets and different products like that, and they're amazing and they add all kinds of detail that you can do, or you can scratch build most of that. Today I'm going to be scratch building it, so let's jump into that and start talking about the process. Now, the things you're going to need to scratch build and do the modifications, at least these are the products I use. First of all, you're going to need to get some of the 18 gauge braided wire, and you're only going to need about two lengths of about 6 inches, or somewhere in the neighborhood of about probably 10 to 20 centimeters. Inside the kit, it comes with these real small wires. I'm not sure what size it is, but you'll have some extra and it'll be perfect for the parts you need to add it to. And then you're going to need to get some of this 24 gauge copper wire also. You're going to need 3 or 4 inches of that for two different areas, so probably a total of about 8 or 9 inches, or about 20 or 30 centimeters, somewhere in there. The other thing you're going to need is a small amount of this round styrene or polystyrene, which is here, and this rod, which is 3/64 or 0.047 diameter, which is 1.2 millimeters. And then you're going to need a small amount of this flat sheet, which is this 1x4, which comes out to 0.28 by 1.09 millimeters. It's very thin, very small. You're not going to need much of it, but you're going to need at least a couple of sections of that to add on the other parts. Pretty much everything else you have within the model and you can utilize. No need to add all the extra parts. There's several parts within the model that are really nice, so you're going to have to worry about it. The last thing you're going to need is some really good way to see a lot closer, magnifying glass or some kind of goggles to get you in closer. Lastly, you're going to have to get yourself some good reference photos. Now, this is just one of many, because you're going to have to be able to see all these different lines and hoses. This one has this device in the front, which is not what I'm doing, but I was looking more at the turret and different parts here. So you're going to have to spend a lot of time researching out there, and then jump into the model. So let's get started. So the beginning process is just building the lower hull area, and a little bit of sanding, a little bit of modifications, just cleaning up the sprue sheets. Nothing major, pretty straightforward. Everything goes together great. Just like I said, assembling the lower part, some of the different little pieces. Pretty good detail on the lower chassis under hull area, and some of those parts works out real nice. The next stage is building the front end of the lower hull, top part where the headlights and tow cable and some other parts are located. But I wasn't happy with the tow cable. It's plastic, and just wasn't real happy with how it looked, so I wanted to scratch that out and modify it. But I would need to use the connection points that I already had on, so I had to cut those off and drill them out to make them usable. First, I got all the other parts set on the front end, and got it prepared to add the cable part. On the plastic cable, there's two points that are pins that hold it. So I had to know right about where they were at, but also I had to kind of recreate the bend it had. So I took my 1mm wire and then fit it to the right bend angle approximately, kind of figuring out how everything was going to attach, and then got ready to recreate it with the new wire. So initially I cut the tip off, made sure it worked just right, and then I had to drill it out, correct it, make sure it fit exactly perfectly and it would look identical to the other one, and then glued it back on. Now on the model itself there's this small piece of plastic that I removed. Now what it is it's part of the fender system. What I had to do is remove that so that I could add the wire and then extend it down below the fender as it does normally. There's a little bend on the end, as you'll see shortly. Now what's interesting is on the back toe cable they have this little locking pin, but the front one they didn't add it. So I had to scratch that in and create it and add it as it looks on the real vehicle. It's a pretty obvious miss on their part, but it was an easy fix. When I initially built this, I just put the little hinge parts on either end and realized there were more of them. So I had to add additional ones, and I went through the process. One of the other things I learned is when you put the CA glue down, which is what I had to connect this with, I put a little bit of drop on there, and then I take a Q-tip and I kind of suck up the excess, and it still stays sticky, still works out nice, but yet it doesn't build up and look awkward after it's built. And then spend a little bit of time kind of cleaning them up and dressing them, and then that was done with that part. From there I went on to adding the vents on the back of the vehicle. This is a real nice feature the Tamiya kit has. It looks good. The black ones below there are actual plastic sheet you have to cut to fit. A little challenging, but not real hard. But the two that I'm working on right now are PE sheets and look real sharp. So I fitted them, put a little bit of glue on, made sure it was cleaned up nice, and then glued them down. Now on all the real vehicles I noticed there were these 4 holes on the edge of the fender on this plate. But Tamiya had the plate, but they didn't have the hole, so I went through and drilled them out. This one was drilled a little off, so I had to put a little bit of putty in there to kind of clean it up and recenter it right, but it was a pretty easy fix to make it look correct. A little bit of sanding and it was all good to go.
Okay, when I got to the turret, I noticed there were lots of parts that weren't there. First thing I noticed is on the front there's these two plates, and it looks like they're bolts on those plates. So I took and drilled it out, and then added some pieces of plastic in there to simulate the actual bolt on the plate. Also, all this underneath here is a real clean, well manicured area on the vehicle, so it took a little bit of time cleaning it up and dressing it to make it look more correct. From there, I removed the fake cable line here that I was going to actually add with brass wire. Pretty simple process of cutting it off and then sanding it down to make it look sharp. I repeat the same process on the other side of the turret because there's the same cables that run down here. One of the things that the model doesn't have that I'll have to rebuild, and you'll see shortly, is along these lines there are the junction boxes, which are round points which have a big bolt on them, and they obviously where the wiring can be directed down which cable line they want it to go down, such as a junction box and electrical panel system. So I had to recreate that also. Now when I went to add the toolbox on the back, it's pretty straightforward. One of the things you'll notice here is there's a lot of putty on the back. The back side of the turret doesn't go together as nice as I'd like. There's a gap and a little bit of sanding and cleaning that up, but it turned out nice once done. You would think the toolbox would cover it, but it's still pretty obvious. On the lower part of the turret, there's these two pin points that have a metal strap with a bolt on it. Model doesn't have it, it just hangs there, kind of bizarre looking. So I went through and added those. Pretty easy part to recreate. I did the right side and the left side, and it was complete. Next thing I noticed is that on the German version they had all these tie-down points along the side of the turret, so I went through and added all those on. From there it was time to start adding the initial main large cables. So I went through and drilled the hole. You can see the little white points there. Those are those junction boxes I talked about. When you look at the actual vehicle, you'll see it's a white, or it's a round tube, and then on the end there's a cap. So initially I didn't put the cap on, but what I did is I took a 1mm hole punch and took a small piece of cardboard, punched it out, and it was just a little hint larger, and I glued it on the end, and it worked out real nice. The next stage was adding all the small connector points for the each smoke grenade. I used the wire that came with the model that was used to install the fuel lines in the back. There, like I said, there was excess, so it worked out nice. A little tedious to get it to glue on, but once I got them on, it turned out real nice, and I was real happy with the results.
So here's going to be the completed model. It's painted in Tamiya Primer Oxide Red. This is the base coat I'm going to use when I start the painting process. This is going to be the undercoat for that. You can see the smoke discharge control lines, the power cords for the lights, everything else. The cord up here to activate the air defense machine gun. There's some added parts here. Added the braided cable for the tow line, which looks a lot nicer. The other side of this, all the sanding and working out here, adding these connection points, some kind of a tie down spot, the lines for this lights. The hatch here is not glued on yet. There will be a crewman in there, but until I get the crewman designed and built, I don't want to glue in the hatch in case I have to adjust the angle. The lighting for this light, the straps in the back that aren't part of the model here, doing the antenna with the guitar string here, a little better quality, and then taking the barrel and honing out the end of the barrel so it looks more accurate, those types of parts. Now, I haven't done the inside here. Once the crewman's inside, I'll see how much of the inside of this I'm going to have to design out, so that when you look inside, it'll look more accurate. There's quite a bit of equipment that sits right inside of here that the model doesn't have, that it's going to be visible, so I'm going to have to do all that. And then adding the aftermarket sectional tracks here, which I haven't done yet. Those will be put on after the model's painted and completed. So I have a few close-up pictures at the end of the video. Please like, subscribe, don't forget to share. Please ask comments, ask questions, anything. I look forward to everything. Criticisms, things I could have done better. Always helpful. And please look forward to the next video coming out soon, which will be the painting process of this. Everybody take care. Have a great day, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.